Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So in the last episode, we finished up with the letter, and let's get on to page 11. Then QAnon came and informed the politically interested public since October 28, 2017, about the background of this war. Since the coup of the deep state military-industrial complex against the John F. Kennedy government in 1963, patriots have tried to expose the issue and have made plans for how the Democratic Republic can be reconquered, not only among the civilians, but also among the military and military intelligence services. These began to organize themselves in the alliance and finally found in Trump a capable candidate that they could win with for the plan. As president, he would instruct them to drain the corrupt swamp of Washington, D.C. Perhaps, and of course that didn't happen. Oh, and by the way, let's go back and look real quick. What was the copyright date on this? 2019 and 2021. All right, so let's go back to page 11. There we are. Perhaps a reorganization of the government will succeed so that the mafia structures, the Clinton Foundation being the tip of the iceberg, can be broken. That didn't happen. As Plan B, the Constitution still allows the traitors to be brought before a military tribunal. Oh my goodness, I don't know how many times I heard them Q folks preaching that stuff. And I was trying to tell them that kind of stuff is not going to be held. I mean, think of the Nuremberg trials. Okay, moving on. As I write, there are over 120,000 sealed indictments that hover like swords of Damocles over corrupt politicians, journalists, CEOs, bankers, and filmmakers. Sealed indictments were only about 1,000 a year before Trump and are used to prosecute criminal groups. They are only unsealed once all the evidence and witnesses have been charged and have been gathered in order to take action against the group simultaneously. Q informed us that the enemy being targeted worldwide, the Rothschilds, the Clintons, the Saudis, the Vatican, ultimately the 12 bloodline families who have brought the world under their control. Oh my goodness. Laura over there at Magical Mystery Church, she's been talking about a lot of this esoteric nonsense and the background behind it and how it ties back to Alice Bailey. Anyway, an essential means of domination. An essential means of domination which I had not yet become so aware of, as an international network of pedosadists who, as they have been for thousands of years, still practice satanic child sacrifice rituals today. Oh my goodness, that's the whole Jewish blood libel thing. That's that has anti-Semitic origins to it. And moving on. They want to bewitch their quote-unquote God, Satan, with the victims to support them and get all initiates under control by means of blackmail material. Oh, like Scientology does, who doesn't believe in God or Satan? Anyway, human trafficking procures children and women and generates greater profits than drug and arms or arms trafficking. There we go with the Q stuff. And this is a Scientologist who wrote this. And Scientology does the human trafficking thing. For example. And also the Mormons. I mean, Marisol Nichols, a Scientologist, has worked frequently with Tim Ballard, an ex-Mormon, an excommunicated Mormon, who's in a lot of legal trouble right now, spinning off of that whole movie Sound of Freedom. Anyway, back to the book. So I got new courage, even though the news, quote-unquote news, was hard to digest because of the size of the enemy, or if the size of the enemy is correctly determined, then the resistance can only be planned appropriately. And with the U.S. military under DJT's command, there is a realistic chance to break the world domination of the satanic cabal. Pause. I'm going to pull a Laura. Pause. I encourage you to look up Empowered 21 and their global Christian dominion concept. I suggest that you look into the Seven Mountains Mandate with the New Apostolic Reformation and Lance Wallnau. That stuff right there is over on Laura's channel. There's plenty of it. Moving along, or unpause. Since Trump has begun to overcome corruption in the judicial system and has instated more than 150 federal judges who were selected primarily on the basis of their loyalty to the Constitution, which is supposed to happen anyway, there is now reason to hope that major crimes involving government participation will also be brought to justice. A lot of those federal judges have ruled against Trump attorneys and Trump legal cases challenging the 2020 election. Anyway, so that didn't play out all that well for him. The terror attack 9/11 was an inside job. Vaccinations cause autism. Okay, so I'm not going to touch on 9/11. Moving on. Vaccinations cause autism. That was a study done with 12 subjects. That is too anecdotal to be a solid evidence, so boo on that. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder, food allergies, cancer, autoimmune diseases, and many other chronic diseases, and pedocriminality covered up until 2016 is also being prosecuted today. Well, it is in 2024. Sean Combs, Danny Masterson, there's even a human trafficking lawsuit against Scientology naming David Miscavige and several others for minors and labor practices, labor trafficking. All right, back to the article. Thus, there is a real hope that the takeover of Scientology by the deep state, which is documented in this book, will ultimately also be uncovered and ended by legal means. Actually, because of Scientology's abusive behaviors and criminal behaviors, there is an active protest going on to get Scientology's tax-exempt status revoked because they are not a church. Back to the book. DJT in Dallas stressed, I will never allow the federal government to be used to punish Americans for their religious beliefs. And I will never allow the IRS to be used as a political weapon. Project 2025. If you don't know about it, go look it up, please. With that, he has indicated. But with that, he has indicated exactly what is explained in this book. The U.S. deep state mainly used the IRS to get religions under control and thus deprive citizens of their freedom of religion. No. Look at Greg Locke. Wasn't Stephen Anderson, Pastor Stephen Anderson? I put in air quotes on pastor because you can't see that, but Steven Anderson was recently picked up for a psych eval and released, and he's one of those evangelical preachers on the Trump side of things. Greg Locke, if you don't know who he is, go check him out. You should check out some of the reaction videos. Anyway, moving along. So the Alliance and Trump are fully aware of the machinations of the deep state, and they are obviously willing to put an end to this spook. This means for Scientologists that an end to hostile domination since 1972 is in sight. The agent of the enemy takeover will have to retreat, the facts will be revealed, the forgeries of the materials will be removed, the original writings will be restored, and Scientology will be restored to what it once was. The liberation movement for the mind and the spirit, and thus a huge help for the great awakening of mankind. The golden future is at stake. I want to go back and reread that. A liberation movement for the mind and the spirit, and thus a huge help for the great awakening of mankind. There's a whole bunch of folks that are connected to that Reawaken American tour, or RAT. Laura at Magical Mystery Church has got a bunch of stuff on that. Folks like Steve Bannon, Mike Flynn, Greg Locke is involved. It gets ugly from there. Golden future is at stake. Sure. I'm not going to read much more of this. I got things I got to go do. But let's go ahead and do a couple more pages here. Scientology is neither white nor black. The truth of it is beyond. At this point, I would like you to suggest that you go and check out Doug Kramer's work at Dazed But Not Confused, and learn some genuine history about Scientology. So, back to this. Quote, Dianetics is an adventure, end quote. L. Ron Hubbard begins his most famous work, Dianetics, the modern science of mental health. 30 years ago, I thought it was an exaggeration, but in fact, he understated it. The history of Dianetics and Scientology is more like a spy thriller. No, it's dark arts stuff. Too often, readers of Dianetics have abandoned the book because worried fellow citizens have given them hell. Quote, how can you concern yourself with Dianetics? Don't you know that the evil Scientology sect is behind it? End quote. And indeed, to anticipate our conclusions from this booklet, we cannot recommend getting involved with the Church of Scientology today. But for completely different reasons than the mass media want to impose on us. Cradle of the scientific Dianetics in the military hospital, 1947. Oh boy. Dianetics is a science and contains techniques derived from it, which can be used either white for the benefit of man or black for his harm. Thus, just as a laser beam can be used positively, for example, in a high-precision laser or high-precision eye operation, or negatively as a weapon to burn entire city districts to ashes. Oh boy. Okay, so white Dianetics, like he says, is supposed to benefit man. It's supposed to clear the planet of all the Thetans. And if you don't know the origin story, South Park did a wonderful breakdown on it. Now, what black Dianetics is the application of Dianetics without the solution, or just pure mind control. For example, MK Ultra. Back to the book. In this book, we show the war between black and white Dianetics and how fake Dianetics came about. We want to warn the reader about this fake and ineffective method. The same is true of Scientology. a science developed from Dianetics, which later became a state religion. A hard stop there. No, it was never a state religion. But I think what he means here is that it came under the control of the state, kind of like the New Apostolic Reformation is. Although he doesn't mention that. That's just my own interjection. Back to the book. After the Second World War, Hubbard resumed his research into the potential of the human mind at the Oak Knoll Marine Hospital, which actually, if you look into his... Oh, sorry, pause. If you actually look into the history that Doug Scott Kramer brings at Dazed But Not Confused, you'll find out that L. Ron Hubbard's military records show that he was basically just lollygagging around. He wasn't actually doing any studying. Anyway, moving along, unpause. There, since 1947, he developed the fundamentals of Dianetics from regression sessions, which he gave to his traumatized soldier colleagues to relieve them of their torments. Well, that's how the legend goes. He was able to convert incurable cases into self-healing but reliving. Oh, I'm sorry. He was able to convert incurable cases into self-healing by reliving the most painful experiences. More coincidentally, in several cases, he came across seriously ill and medically inaccessible soldiers who had become victims of psychiatric field research in the same hospital. And that's how the story goes. That's how the legend goes, but that's not how it happened. Please go check it out. There, the military secret service conducted experiments within the framework of the experimental brainwashing to see how prisoners of war could be reprogrammed using drugs, electric shocks, and hypnosis. Pain drug hypnosis, or PDH for short. The fact that these test subjects suffered from severe psychosomatic illnesses was accepted by the psychiatrist as collateral damage. Hubbard deferred to such inhumane practices as Black Dianetics. They later became known as MK Ultra. So, psychosomatic illnesses. The test subject suffered from severe psychosomatic illnesses. That reminds me of John MacArthur talking about PTSD is not real. Okay, let's get on into this. I'm almost done with what I'm going to read out today. Hubbard was able to help his colleagues by reliving the PDH treatments, releasing the pain from them, and nullifying the brainwashing. After these Dianetic sessions, vital substance-rich nutrition and medical treatment finally struck. Hubbard protested against these criminal human experiments by military psychiatric intelligence circles. Science was to serve mankind. It was later revealed that these forerunners of the CIA, called the Office of Strategic Services, OSS for short, protected and employed German Nazi scientists who were recruited as part of Operation Paperclip and flown to the United States instead of punishing them justly in the Nuremberg war criminal trials. Okay, well, that part is accurate, but he also conveniently left out that the Soviet Union did the same thing. All right, so in the next video, we will pick up with the war on of the deep state against Dianetics, Scientology, and the Hubbard family.